How does someone actually die from cancer? In this video, I'm going to describe how someone actually can die from cancer, what's the progression usually like, and how we can help. Now, to be clear, not everyone with cancer dies. Okay, so make sure we hear that first. Not everyone with cancer dies. There are many wonderful treatments that help you survive cancer. I am only talking about if you eventually are diagnosed with a terminal cancer. What does the decline usually look like? What's usually going on? What do you actually die from? And then again, how can hospice and your caregivers help? Generally speaking, there are two types of patients that come onto hospice. Again, generally speaking, the acute and the chronic. Okay, the chronic disease patients are usually people with like Parkinson's disease, congestive heart failure, dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that. The acute patients are someone with some kind of terminal cancer. And I say acute because it's usually like they've only been dealing with this for 6 months, maybe a year, whereas someone with dementia has been dealing with dementia for the past 15 years. So there is a difference, and the decline is different. The decline is usually a little more steady and a little more sharp, whereas the chronic illness patient might be more of like a stairway decline. The cancer patient on hospice, anyway, is usually a little more of a swift, gradual decline. And because of that, a lot of times they are on hospice for a shorter amount of time, which is what we in the hospice field are all trying to change. We want people to start thinking about hospice earlier, not because they want to think about their death, but because they want to prepare themselves and they really want to live. If they know they have a terminal illness, which eventually will lead to the end of life, when do they want to start thinking about stopping treatment, coming onto hospice to get their symptoms managed and to live out the rest of their life? And I think if we kind of understand hospice a little more, understand our disease a little more, that might be something people will start choosing sooner, which I think then they'll get the full benefit of hospice. And side note, this is not part of the video, but there are many diseases that have been proven via research that people actually live longer on hospice. So just a little side note. Okay, so what does it actually look like when you're dying from cancer, generally speaking, and what's actually causing you to die? Super, super complicated question, and depending on what kind of cancer you have is how it's going to be affecting your body, okay? Generally speaking, you are dying from the type of cancer you have. It is affecting usually some type of organ and how it's working, how it's filtering things in your body, which is like it's not. So it's causing you to start declining, right? Your body is not fully functioning. So then it starts affecting other organs and then you start fully declining. How that looks on hospice is almost the same for everybody. Like I say over and over and over again, you start sleeping more, you start eating and drinking less, and that continues to happen more and more over time. So those things are happening because your body starts cluing in, hey, we're not functioning right. Maybe my liver's not functioning right. My kidneys aren't functioning right. My heart's not functioning right. My brain's not functioning right. Things are not functioning as they should. It starts preparing itself to die, which will make you not want to eat and drink because it turns off that hunger and thirst mechanism. It makes you want to sleep more. Usually because your calcium levels are rising, but sometimes your calcium levels are still fine, but you're still sleeping all the time. So your body is almost cocooning itself, saying, hey, I think we're getting towards the end here. And the body knows that the drier you are, the better you actually feel. The drier you are, you start releasing ketones. You can go into ketosis. It helps dull pain. It helps kind of give you a euphoric feeling. So the body intuitively knows how to do this. Now, depending on where the cancer is in your body and like what it's affecting will depend on the symptoms you have, right? For instance, prostate cancer metastatic to the bone. A lot of times because it's moved to the bone cancer can feel painful, right? So you may have some symptoms of pain. Or let's say you have liver cancer or some kind of other cancer metastatic to the liver. If your liver has failed, you may have other symptoms like ascites, which is that fluid buildup in your belly, which can cause you pain and shortness of breath. So depending on what type of cancer you have will depend on what kind of symptoms you'll have. And some won't have any. That is the truth. I think a lot of people associate death with like constant suffering and pain, and that is just not true. And either they don't have a lot of symptoms, or hospice is really good at managing the symptoms. So a lot of times things can be controlled so you can live out the rest of your life. So although everyone's journey can look different on hospice depending on the type of cancer they have, generally speaking, there is a pattern that we see all the time. And that pattern is usually you come onto hospice, you are hopefully still like walking and talking and eating some and drinking some, and you maybe need minimal assistance with ADLs, meaning, you might need someone to help you walk to the bathroom, but generally speaking, you can go to the bathroom on your own, you can shower on your own, but maybe someone has to be in the bathroom with you or help you a little bit, right? Maybe someone's cooking food for you, but you can still eat yourself. That's how you come on to hospice. And then as time goes on, almost everybody will start declining functionally, meaning first you needed minimal assistance. Now, 3 months into hospice, you need moderate assistance. Maybe you need someone to sit next to you while you're going to the bathroom because you might fall over or you don't have the strength to get off the toilet yourself. You need someone to be in the bathroom with you. You have a shower chair. They have to bathe you because you can't do it on your own. You might need someone to cut up your food for you because you can't do it, or puree it because it's too hard to chew. Things like that, right? So you're going to be functionally declining. As you functionally decline, you're going to notice as well that you are eating and drinking less. So I'm talking like a few bites of food 3 times a day, right? You still have that like trigger hunger of like morning, noon, and night, but after a few bites, you're full and you don't really want more. Or you only want to drink, or you only want to drink smoothies or like chocolate shakes, things like that. And you're going to notice that you are sleeping a lot more. So maybe 10 hours at night and then 2 naps during the day. Then as again, another 2 months goes on, maybe even only a month, you will just see the same things, but more. And by the time everyone on hospice, by the time they are getting to, the last few weeks of life, they will mostly be bedbound, in and out of consciousness, not eating and drinking, incontinent, so someone's going to have to change you. And I say all these things not to scare you, but to prepare you. I think a lot of people don't understand that at the end of life, they will need someone to care for them totally. They will be fully dependent on somebody else. A lot of that time when they're fully dependent, they will be unconscious. So they probably won't know that. But I still like to make sure people understand, so the caregivers understand that, hey, this is going to be on you. You have to change them. You have to make sure they're clean, safe, and comfortable is the main thing I always say. And know that it's normal. I saw a video the other day of a woman describing a loved one of hers being in the hospital, and the loved one was dying, and the hospital wasn't feeding them or giving them water or, doing anything to help them. And how could they just let her starve to death? Yes, she's dying from something, but how can you let them starve to death? How can you not give IV hydration? How can you not do that? You're making them suffer. And I wrote in the comments, I hope you can watch some of my videos. I think they will help, because I didn't have enough time or space to like write all of why, right? But if you watched a lot of my videos, I talk about that all the time. A dying body knows how to die, and it makes it itself not hungry, not thirsty. Hence why it's so important to allow the body to do that at the end of life. And even if we tried to put in an IV, right, to give them IV hydration, it wouldn't do what it's supposed to do. It would not hydrate the person. It wouldn't stay intravascular and perk them up. It would seep out of their vascular system, causing third spacing, edema, and eventually respiratory distress, because the dying body can't handle the fluid that we're trying to give it. Right? So when someone's dying from cancer, why and how are they dying? They are dying from the cancer. The person is not dying because they're not eating or drinking. They're not eating and drinking because they're dying. And the progression will happen with almost everybody, particularly if you choose to go on hospice. You will have a more natural, gradual death. And the more you understand the progression and the more you understand death and dying, the better it usually goes and the more peaceful you usually die.